people, you might start talking to somebody, and I don't know, it's just going to change.
And it has. And
because the Marines have every right. The Marines are of God too. They're vital.
Right.
They're there. I'm not saying conventionally. I'm just saying.
No, it's not the organization or the people in it I have issues with. It's the idea.
But even those ideas are there. Yeah.
Right.
They're of God. They're all.
I think
it's all a judgment call on your part. Like you're judging. Well, this is good and this is where I should be, but this is bad and I don't want to be there. And I've changed. I'm more spiritual now, so I don't really fit in with the Marines. Raw, they're hardcore thing. But you're there, so that's. And you'll be surprised about. I don't know. I mean, you can go to some of these so-called spiritual environments and see a lot of anger and hostility there.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't. Again, the experience has changed. It's just when you're in something and something changes, you just get used to it, and then you kind of forget that it's changed. So as in the last year or so, I wouldn't even recognize myself or how I reacted to my job and how people reacted to me. I wouldn't recognize that if I look back at it. So it's changed a great deal. It's just I kind of get lost in it.
You wouldn't be there if you didn't belong there.
Right. Yes, I know.
So it's just.
Oh, and it has its good things too. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you focus.
I wouldn't know who I am today if it wasn't for that job. As much as I struggle and fight against it.
Yeah.
I think it still goes back to there is no you though. So through all of this, it's still consciousness. Lynn's getting clearer and clearer and clearer, and like you say, just accept that it's getting clearer and it's looking different in the you that you're still grounded in at this point, and just accept it. Because there is no.
You don't have control over that.
Yeah.
It will just happen.
Yeah.
I guess the more we do this, it's sort of, you get to the point, like when you were saying, what is there to do? There's nothing to do. There's nothing. If we really, it's hard to even start to talk about it, but when you accept that you don't exist, and it's just consciousness, you're just aware. And it's just this awareness flowing through, and it's not not judging the experience, just being in the experience as you flow.
While this conversation is happening, my new mind has a rag and is polishing the lenses.
Can you spray some Windex on mine? Hey.
I'm sorry.
No, I was. Go ahead.
There is nothing to do. I think that's already hit me pretty hard. That's one of the things I think I was looking for. There is nothing to do because I've been doing just a ton of work as far as changing my direction in the last month and a half, where it's been even on weekends I'm writing, I'm calling, I'm emailing, I'm doing stuff to change where I'm going. So I think I just got stuck in that high output mode. So over the last couple of weekends, it feels like like a train went off a cliff. That's how my parents have described it, and we just got it. A train that goes off a cliff, there's no more track, but the train keeps going as fast as it was in nothing. So I still feel like, well, I need to apply this energy. Well, what is there to do?
Yeah.
I need to be okay with that.
Yeah. I know that your doing flows from being then. I
Yes.
think it's
Right
that
action, right
so
thought.
used to, for me it's been this whole breakdown of the whole sense of who this thing used to be to begin with anyway. And that you had to set goals and you're dreaming, and I get to a point where I don't want any dang goals anymore, and then I think there's something wrong with me because I don't want any goals, and and then you're in this place where it's like I'm still moving, but I'm supposed to be doing something, and it's like no, like really getting to there's nothing to do. There's just that the being. I was talking to somebody when we're really there's still the belief that there's an I, that when you're really feel like you're in flow, you can do more than you could when. But then now we have to get to the place where there is no you doing anyway. Mm-hmm. It's just consciousness being.
I just wanted to ask you, so you and Gary and your mom had the discussion about evolution and creation. So what was your why were we discussing that?
because
How
he
do you bring that
said,
subject up?
because he stopped it and said, I'm enjoying this ice cream.
Yeah. But
No,
before
it
that,
started,
Oh.
the most important thing about what we're going to be talking about now and what you were talking about is the sense of presence when your brain is talking and listening. That's everything else is like moving on the screen is unimportant. Everything we talked about in the last 15 minutes does not make any difference at any level, any way you think about it. It is just a projection. Does the projection change what's happening inside here? No, it doesn't. When you speak, when you listen, where is the observer? Where is the observer? Is it lost in thought? Is it lost in the conventional mind as you speak and experience sound? Where is the observer? Where is the presence? Sitting here for 5 seconds, observing your brain, observing this brain, what is thinking or what is feeling or what is hearing or whatever it is far more productive than 5 hours of talking and analyzing and explaining and understanding. Just 5 seconds or 3 seconds, even 1 second of real presence, not a concept of presence, not the thought of presence, but the experience of presence. And what is the experience of presence? Yeah, what is it? I mean, mindfulness is to observe your brain. Observe your brain, saying, doing. When you say there's nothing to do, for whom? Who are you referring to that there is nothing for that to do? Who are you talking about? The brain? That's a long shot. You know why? Because that's what I've been through. When I found my comfort zone, when I had enough money to not work, nothing to do, I was satisfied without entertainment, going out, whatever, nothing to do. I was sitting on a rock, staring at the ocean for hours, nothing to do. I could do nothing to do. Right? Because I have my comfort zone that allows me, the circumstance in my life allowed my brain to do nothing. Literally. Or for months doing nothing. Just like sitting, just observing, enjoying. I did nothing. So my comfort zone expanded. I have a big comfort zone now. I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. I'm self-sufficient. I can let everything be. But the challenge rises up to your brain's limited capabilities and possibilities. When you say there's nothing to do, and suddenly your house collapses, or suddenly some drastic event happens in your life, your brain jumps up in no time and it will do everything it can do to survive. Because now it's pushed outside its comfort zone. The brain will always do. So when you say, I want to go and I'm not going to do anything, the brain, not going to do anything. That's fine. That doesn't do anything. That does not do anything to your new mind. That doesn't do anything to your state of mind. It doesn't do anything. What does everything is observing your brain, wanting or not wanting to do, and do nothing about it. Is observing your brain saying or not saying, and do nothing about it. So the brain is here to do. Even if you go and live in a convent on top of the Himalayas and do nothing, your brain does nothing. You take the player out of the field of life, out of the game of life. You take the player out of the field and you throw the player somewhere on a mountain. Say, we have a lot of spiritualists that do that. I want to do anything. I want to serve God. I want to be available for God. It doesn't do anything. Whether your brain is the busiest brain in the world or is the laziest brain in the world, it does not do anything to your state of mind. what does everything in your state of mind and everything in your life and in your experiences and in your brain, what transforms your brain to do what it needs to do or not to do what it doesn't need to do for a collective objective, is the observer. But where is this observer right now, as we speak? Where is this observer? If you think of the observer, that's not the observer, that's a thought. If you try to imagine God or the observer, same thing. That's just a concept. It's a mental concept. It's a mental thought. It's not God. You go to church and you pray for God, imagining what God could be, maybe an abstract image. You're not praying to God, you're praying to a concept in your head. The same thing when you talk about presence, or to do or not to do. Where is the presence when your brain is talking and thinking? Is there a sense of observation of your brain as if it's observing someone else?
Not often. Mostly it's just a thought of I'm supposed to be aware of and non-judgmental. But it just stays in the thinking. It's not an experiential thing. I've had a couple of experiences, but they're very different than my thinking. And
Right.
I don't know how to
And you know they are very different because the experience is completely different than the experience of thought or imagination or analysis. It's completely different. Then you know what it means to be present. Then you know what it means to be an observer, activated for that how many seconds.
Yeah.
So now as you're looking at me, you're speaking. Are you lost in your mind? Are you lost as being the brain? Or is there an observer observing the brain as it's experiencing me speaking?
It seems like when I try to be, aware of an observer, it's just thinking of
Because
the
your
observer.
brain is trying.
Yeah.
So let your brain try. Are you observing your brain trying to become an observer?
I don't know. Yeah, so.
You are not the brain. So when you say, I don't do anything, if you're talking about the brain, then you're lost in the brain. Then you are the brain, which is not the truth. You're living a misconception. You're living an illusion. When you speak of the I, and you're referring to anything that got to do with thought, anything, any thought that the I takes credit or responsibility for, there is no presence whatsoever. You're just a subconscious biochemical bundle of patterns existing. There is no you there at all. So it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how you analyze things. It doesn't really matter. Your brain can analyze anything it wants. It can do anything it wants. It might not want to do anything it wants. All of that is as superficial as a movie playing on the screen. And it is all a projection of your state of mind, your level of awareness. And your level of awareness in that moment that you're thinking and conceptualizing things is so low that you are lost in the brain. You're lost in the conventional mind. And we live our lives minute to minute, day to day, year to year like this. Right now, right this second. Let your brain ask the question. It's okay. Ask the question. Where is me beyond this thought of the question, where is me? Is there an observer observing the brain asking the question, where is me? Are you experiencing any presence beyond the thought, where is me? Or any thought? That's what I mentioned. I'm taking the rag and I'm polishing the new mind.
Please. Take a razor blade.
It's not I, meaning the brain or whatever it is, the consciousness, which is really you. But the consciousness is lost in the clutter in each of those instruments. It's lost in the clutter. And the biggest clutter is the I. Whenever you say, I shouldn't do, or I should do, or I'm thinking, there's absolutely no presence in that. But when you have the experience of observing your brain saying it, and you're smiling at your brain. I'm fully aware that you're asking that question. I'm fully aware that you're thinking that thought, or you're feeling that emotion. I'm just simply aware of it. Once you have a thought that I shouldn't think like that, or I shouldn't do, or I shouldn't feel, then consciousness is lost again in the mind, in the conventional mind. And how does the observer come about? As you're looking at me, is there an observer there observing your brain, looking at me? Are you aware that my brain, of the thought, even when you think, okay, I'm aware that I'm looking at Johnny. That thought, are you aware of that thought as it is happening? Are you observing it as the brain is thinking that thought? That's all that matters. Doesn't matter what you analyze, what you think, what book you read, what group you go to. You can be sitting by yourself at home, or you could be busy with the busiest thing. The observer that's observing your brain, that it is not you, that's observing your brain as if I'm looking at Jim now, let's say Jim is my brain, and I am the consciousness observing my brain. And my brain is saying something, thinking, dealing, smiling, sitting, whatever it is. And I'm observing without judgment. Everything about this brain is perfectly fine, whether it's doing or not doing, whether it's feeling or not feeling, whatever it's feeling or not feeling, whatever it's thinking or not thinking. It's perfectly fine. I am completely satisfied with you, Jim. Completely, non-judgmentally accepting you exactly as you are. And you're my brain. That's what it's all about. This is really what it's all about. Nothing else matters. Everything else is. This observation is the person or the consciousness or the entity that's sending the light from inside the projector out. Everything else is on the screen. And what changes what's on the screen is the observer that's inside. So when you are in that state of observation, when the observer here is activated, then what you see on the screen changes. Then the movie that you're watching, that's called your life, your thoughts, your emotions, that's all part of the movie. That movie changes.
How do we know if it's really the observer or if it's a thought of observing?
Why do you need to know?
No, but I mean, like if my mind is thinking something and I'm saying in my brain, I'm aware that my brain is thinking that.
Yeah.
Isn't that still a thought?
Yeah, so observe that thought as well.
Something that can't be encapsulated in language.
Yeah.
Correct. But it is an experience like Linda just described. It is an experience that she had a couple of times for a couple of seconds or a second. And she knows that it is not thought. She knows that it is not anything of a mental function. It's something from someone else. As I'm experiencing right now as I talk to you. And the consciousness is literally polishing your lens. Right this moment. Literally.
Can we go home with you?
Surrender. Surrender. The power of surrender. Not surrendering, that means the brain says, I want to surrender, therefore I don't want to do anything, I don't want to pursue anything. That's still the brain talking. It's still patterns, still programmed patterns. You know, that it's coming from a book or from whatever it is, maybe an insight or whatever it is. The only change that is a real change is happening at such a subtle level that you're not aware of it as it is happening right this moment. Because there is no presence. You're all brain. You're all thought at this moment, and emotions. Maybe I should ask some of you, what are you feeling? Are you in tuned, literally in tuned with what you're feeling at this very moment? Be in touch with, what am I feeling? Relaxed? Or try to go at deeper levels. What are you feeling? Be aware of your feeling, of your emotion. This is just little awareness right now of what are you feeling that you haven't been aware of for the last 10 minutes that I've been talking about, because you're so focused on the movie, which is my voice and my image and us here in the room. Look inside, just for a moment. Look inside. What is your thought at this moment? What is your brain's thought at this moment? What is your brain's emotion? What are those chemicals that are happening? It's all chemicals. Thoughts and emotions are all chemicals. It's all biochemical patterns. You're not those biochemical patterns. You're not a bundle of chemistry and electrical pulses. But we often, or almost all the time, lost in those patterns. Thinking that we are those patterns. That I am a bunch of electrical wiring and chemicals, and that makes up me. And even if we think that I am not this, those thoughts of I am not chemicals and electrical pulses is electrical pulses and chemicals in its own. When there's an observer observing, when there's an awareness of those thoughts, not as the right thoughts or wrong thoughts, not as they're good thoughts or bad thoughts, or they should be or they shouldn't be. There is a thought. There is an emotion. Just that recognition of the thought or emotion in the moment as it is happening is an entire realm on its own. It makes all of the universe or the cosmos minuscule. It makes it look like a movie on the screen, which is so insignificant. When you're sitting and watching a movie, the movie plays with your emotion, produces emotions and thoughts. You get hot about it. You get stimulated. But then you wake up. You say, this is just a movie. Why am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling worried about this person that's running in the movie that's being followed by somebody else? It's just a movie. This is precisely how life is. Everything that we take so seriously, a comment, and we analyze it and we take it seriously and we want to respond to it. It's a movie. Why are you taking it seriously? Just a movie. And when it's taken seriously, it's your brain that's taking it seriously. And when you realize that it's my brain that's taking that seriously, and it's all right, it's the realization that it is just like a movie. It's so insignificant. The emotion that you're feeling or the thought is so insignificant, just like it is a TV show or a movie that you're watching.
Question. So is homelessness insignificant for the homeless, or is it insignificant for the others? I mean, it's just a movie. I wouldn't want to be in that movie. The home, you know.
Everything is significant to the brain. To the homeless's brain, everything is significant. Because the brain is trying to survive, so it needs shelter and food and water and so forth. But does the consciousness need shelter? Does the consciousness need water and food? To the consciousness, it is insignificant. Because it is all just a movie. Or a dream, if you will. So the brain takes things very seriously. The consciousness just smiles at everything. Just smiles at everything. because the consciousness doesn't need it. It is on its own all that there is. But to the brain, cannot be on its own without everything else, without people and relationships and food and physical survivorships. So to the brain is dependent on everything. But what is the consciousness dependent on? Nothing. That's why it's nothing. It's dependent on nothing. So everything is insignificant, because the only significant is the nothing. Confusing?
I had a dream on May 20th. It precipitated everything that I've been doing the last over a month. It was one of those starts where you fall asleep and you just wake up. And I didn't even have time. I felt like I didn't even have time to have a thought. But the imprint, I guess, on the screen was, you're going to die. You're going to be dead. Because the feeling, the dream, I don't even know if it was a dream, what I would even call it. I felt nothing. I felt like I was just in space, nothing. There were no judgments, it was nothing. Just in the dream, whatever it was just nothing. And I woke up, you're going to die, you're going to be nothing, and you won't even be able to experience it. So what matters? And that kind of clarified what I had to do, but there's one thing that I want, is I want that. Because I feel like that might be the closest thing, maybe what you're talking about that you've had for seconds at a time, is that consciousness that was nothing. And I think maybe I've kind of gotten lost, and I may have, although that was the moment that catalyzed everything, I think I may have been using my brain as much as I've been using it. Almost like running a marathon, I've kind of fused my consciousness with my brain, kind of got too confused. I think I need to find a way to separate.
Who's confusing your brain with the consciousness?
Exactly.
It's your brain confusing itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's the brain confusing itself.
I need to take the running shoes off. Take the consciousness from my brain. Stop identifying.
You cannot do that.
No.
It just happens on its own. So why want? And why pursue and desire? And how not to pursue and desire is to just experience the moment, because what's happening in the moment is already is. You cannot desire what's happening in the moment. You already have it. You cannot desire the moment. Maybe you're desiring the next moment, but you cannot desire the moment, because desire or want or should or do refers to anything but what's being experienced in the absolute moment. So if you're in the absolute moment, all your desires dissipate. There's nothing to change. It is now. And I want to deconfuse my brain is the brain telling itself, and it's just going to add more confusion because it does not know how to deconfuse itself. It thinks it knows, but it doesn't, because it's going to refer to the library of genetics, of its own DNA, and its own experiences that are, carved in stone. And it's going to look at the library and, okay, let me choose this option and this option.